that brings us to the last presentation for today, before the demos, so the last speaker presentation with Claudia. She is heading that segment Technology and Innovation. You remember her from the last Capital Markets Day. And she will talk about the all IP migration, where we stand on that, about 5G, what our thoughts are, and our IT strategy that we have mentioned before, and innovation. So she's got a lot of stuff to go through, but I'm sure she will do that now very effectively. Okay, so Claudia, can we please have you on stage?
Thank you, Hannes. Ladies, gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the pre-dinner technology session. Before we start, let me re-emphasize. We connect people to the opportunities of today and tomorrow. As Tim said, we are truly passionate about customer experience, enabled by technology leadership, and our technology and our networks are the basis for everything. And that's what drives us, and that is what drives me. Coming to the key messages. Number one, we are entering actually the final stages of our superior production model. While we have learned some lessons on the way, we can largely confirm the financial and customer experience benefits which I outlined at the previous Capital Market Day. On 5G, we will leverage our modernized SRAN and superior fiber backhaul to lead in 5G. Within an overall stable CapEx envelope, we will focus on smart speed and capacity upgrade, fixed wireless access, and selected new business areas. Number three, we shifted towards a more agile approach to IT transformation, which will accelerate digitization with upside on customer experience and lower cost in accordance with the promised savings. And last but not least, we have proven innovation in the market, and we have a compelling innovation pipeline going forward for consumer and the business. Coming to the details of the review. My main message here is we stick to our course. We stick to our course while we learn on the way. We don't run business in zigzag. We believe technology leadership requires a long-term perspective with year-over-year consistent excellence in execution. What you can see on that chart, we achieved most of our ambitions. Having said that, in some areas, we are slightly behind our plan or modified our approach. Let me highlight those. On IP transformation, we originally wanted to complete them until end of 2018 everywhere. We completed them entirely in all Eastern European countries. Greece will be finished by end of 2019. This was an intentional postponement to refocus CapEx on access. And in Germany, as Dirk mentioned before, we will complete the IP migration for the consumer business in 2019 and for the B2B business by end of 2020 due to less radical approach to forced migrations. Remember, we are talking about a 6 to 7 year program, so the slight delays are not in the order of magnitude that we doubt that we will complete the IP migration within the explained time frame. And we are well ahead of our peer groups when it comes to scope and speed. Regarding PartNet, we set up the infrastructure and migrated selected services. For the more complex services, we modified our approach. And on the last item, while we are undisputed integrated network leader in Germany and in Europe, we are somewhat behind our original timetable regarding the very fast internet household coverage in Europe, yet we have a future-proven build-out plan going forward. Let me summarize some of the lessons learned. Just to repeat, the superior production model is actually our factory. The networks, the IT, the product platforms. And it consists of 4 components: the all-IP migration, the pan-European network, the integrated access networks, and the digital transformation. In the all-IP migration, we continue to be a peer leading in 2 dimensions. Number 1, in scope. We are actually simplifying across all network layers, and we are not talking about PSTN migration only. Number 2, in speed, because we have completed or are close to completion in all major markets. And we clearly see customer experience benefits and financial savings. On PARNet, we modified the approach. We focus very much on cloudification and virtualization, and centralize in addition when it accelerates time to market. On the integrated networks, our leadership in integrated networks creates the basis for our FMC differentiation. Our superior fiber backhauling creates a competitive advantage for 5G, and as Tim mentioned before, we have mobile technology in Germany, mobile technology leadership in Germany, and in 9 out of 12 European markets, which creates a better customer experience, which we can actually monetize. On the digital transformation, we shifted towards a more agile approach with upside on customer experience and lower cost. And overall, we confirm the Capital Market Day 15 gross savings of 1.2 billion euro in early 2020s, as well as customer experience benefits. Coming more practically to the customer experience benefits. Let's assume you move to a new house or apartment. What you do is you take this router, the Speedboard Smart 3 or any other router, you plug it in the wall, and off you go. So there is no longer the need to fill in your credentials in a very cumbersome manner. And the result is significantly increased customer satisfaction. And what you can see here, we have in Germany 38% fewer tickets in provisioning. The simplification of our aggregation network, called BNG migration, was also the necessary condition for introducing our 200 Mbit per second product super vectoring. So no super vectoring or vectoring without that BNG migration. And what you can see here, we are going to have 15 million homes passed with super vectoring capability by end of this year, going up to 28 million by end of next year. Talking about our integrated network leadership, here you see all the prizes. No, not all the prizes. Actually, we won much more prizes, but many prizes we won, actually. And it shows a very consistent picture. We love our networks. I love our networks across the entire footprint. And we have a very fantastic fiber backend network and fiber backhauling. For instance, in Germany, the fiber backhauling rate is 80% climbing up. And why is that cool? Fiber backhauling allows to upgrade capacity flexibly, cheaply, and fast to whatever level you wish. And we really believe it's a massive competitive advantage when it comes to 5G. Talking about our strategy and ambitions going forward. It covers 3 areas. Number 1, lead in technology. That is integrated network leadership and mobile network experience leadership. Dirk has talked about it. Srini will talk about it tomorrow, so I will not repeat it. And the other aspect is smart 5G leadership. The second item is value transformation. In addition to continue to finish the superior production model, we focus very much on broadband innovation that drives productivity and efficiency, in addition to a modified approach for our IT transformation, which I will explain. And last but not least, the last chapter is about innovation for consumer experience and business productivity. I will give you some hints about the most promising pieces in our pipeline. Starting now with the super exciting topic of 5G. We are and we will be 5G innovation leader and 5G execution leader within an overall stable CapEx envelope. How that? We are focusing on 3 areas which have different economic rationale. Number 1 key capability, as you know, of 5G is a significant speed and capacity upgrade. Speed by factor 10, capacity by factor 100, even 1,000, depending. And why is that? This is driven by the combination of more spectrum, denser networks, and more efficient technologies. The implementation of that capability will start in areas of interest, which is cities, hotspot areas of cities, or industrial parks. Why does that make sense? Because a 5G overlay network is more efficient than 4G only from round about 2021 onwards, if the current traffic predictions hold true. Number 2, a very specific application area of the speed upgrade of 5G is, in a stationary environment, fixed wireless access. I'm talking here about gigabit speed on higher frequencies, mainly millimeter waves. And fixed wireless access here will be a complement to the fiber to the home rollout in urban and suburban areas. And why does it make sense? Depending on the topology, it has actually significantly faster time to market, and it's more cost efficient. Finally, 5G is not only about speed and capacity upgrade and IoT. It is also about new capabilities like extreme quality of service or low latency. We believe that more on a midterm horizon, more products and solutions will be enabled by these capabilities, which will create revenue potential more on a midterm horizon. Starting with the first area, mobile capacity and speed upgrade, which is normally referred to as enhanced mobile broadband. Where is that coming from? First of all, new spectrum will be available, 700 megahertz and 3.x gigahertz. What is so exciting about that, more spectrum will be available on the market than ever before, and the spectrum comes in huge blocks, which enhances efficiency. The massive capacity upgrade is actually created by the combination of the so-called massive MIMO antenna technology with 3.x gigahertz spectrum. An LTE MIMO antenna has typically 2, 4, or 8 antenna elements per antenna. A 3.x massive MIMO 5G antenna has 64, theoretically a few hundred antenna elements per antenna. And by the way, on an antenna with a very practical size, round about 35 centimeters times 78 centimeters. Why is that? Pure physics. The higher the spectrum, the smaller the antenna. And via very efficient technology called beamforming, these antennas can actually change the form of the beam very quickly. via software. So what is important to note here, due to the laws of physics, the higher the frequency, the lower the propagation range of the signal, the smaller the cell. Yeah? And the lower the frequency, the larger the cell. In other more practical words, lower spectrum bands are more suited for nationwide rollout than higher spectrum bands. Pretty logical, right? So what does that mean practically? We get ready for 5G to leverage future efficiencies. First, we increase the number of sites in Germany by round about 2,000 sites per year, and in Europe by 1,000 sites per year, plus we will add small cells in addition. That cell densification will start in these areas of interest, like cities or industrial parks, and we will leverage the SRAN, which we just modernized in Germany, so it's 5G ready, and our superior backhauling. The right side of the chart actually shows the cost curves which we predict. It's actually the incremental business hour capacity and the here measured in euro per megabit per second. And the blue curve shows the theoretical cost curve if we would just continue with LTE only and traffic would grow as it does. The magenta curve actually shows the cost curve for a 4G network with a 5G overlay network. And 5G overlay network means here 3.x gigahertz massive MIMO in these specific areas of interest. And what you can see here that from round about 2021 onwards, the network with a 5G overlay is actually more efficient than a 4G network only, assuming that the traffic grows as we expect. Another interesting application area is fixed wireless access. On this chart, you can see the results of a trial we did in Germany. Here, on 60 gigahertz, and assuming you have fiber in the street, you can actually put an FWA antenna on the street pole here, and a smaller antenna, that is, by the way, this one here, at the outside of the window of a house. And we have tried that in suburban and in urban areas, and what we could actually see is that it can provide a gigabit speed, actually this trial even a 3 gigabit speed here. And we trialed it on 60 gigahertz and on 26 gigahertz. As I said, it enables gigabit speed. And of course, the number of households depends on the distance between the houses and on the frequency which we use. What is important for you guys to note? Our fixed wireless access technology is designed to be at least as competitive as cable. So it's designed to be at least as competitive as cable. And what are the benefits? First of all, depending on topology, the initial CapEx demand is 30 to 50% lower than with FTTH, and it has faster time to market. It cannot be implemented, as Dirk already mentioned, in every topology. Why is that? Because it's millimeter waves, and when a big truck goes in the way, or you have a big tree, the connection would get interrupted. This is why you need to have a specific composition of the antennas so that one antenna can take over. So it can only work in certain topologies, but then it has that CapEx advantage and faster time to market. It requires less underground construction capacity. The equipment is, by the way, reusable. And we believe that the biggest advantage is that we can actually de-risk the fiber rollout. As mentioned before, round about 20% to 30% of all households where we have fiber in the street are actually suited for that type of technology. Coming to new business models, we distinguish between solutions that require new 5G capabilities like latency, edge, or quality of service in locally confined areas, like campus networks, and those where that capability is required everywhere. By the way, we believe that product innovation will first happen in these locally confined areas. One example is a campus network. A campus network combines enhanced public coverage with private indoor coverage and IoT. So this is what is already relevant today, and you can do in 4G. But our business clients tell us that they would like to tailor and configure the networks to their needs on a daily basis. And what would be even greater for them if they could have an autonomous factory. How would that work? Today, when you have an assembly line with robots that need to interact, you have to pre-program the entire chain. The result is that from time to time it stops. And then you need to restore it in a cumbersome way. If we implement an edge cloud and have low latency connection on that campus network, that can be done fully automatically. Or in other words, please expect the autonomous factory to happen much earlier before we have autonomous driving. By the way, another interesting use case for a locally confined area is information augmented vision. Just imagine you would get on your glasses contextual information in real time. For example, a surgeon in an operating room images of the patients, or a technician in a factory visuals, which explain the task while he needs to use his hands. Or imagine your kids playing a superbly enhanced version of Pokemon to Go in a locally confined area in a city. So just to give you a flavor, what beyond the efficiency cases, could be an outlook. Where will that lead to? We believe that on a mid or long-term horizon, the real-time economy opens boundless opportunities. Why is that? Today, we all experience the internet via apps and browsers. So instead of looking at a map and reading information when going through a city, we look at Google Maps. And then we go through the city like that. In the future, we will experience connectivity via these glasses, lenses, earplugs, with simultaneous simulation or smart closes. Today, storage computing power and algorithmic intelligence is either stored in a device, a PC, a smartphone, or a car, or in a central data center. In the future, all that will be stored in edge clouds, deeply embedded into the network. And the advantage of that is that you can offload storage and computing power from your device into the cloud. Or the advantage is that you can steer the factory automatically. And today, connectivity is mainly described by coverage and speed. And in the future, it will be differentiated also by quality of service and latency. So while nobody knows in detail what the business models will be, I nevertheless wanted to point out where it's heading to. Coming to the next chapter, value transformation. As Dirk pointed out, we intend to ramp up the gigabit rollout to these 2 million households per annum under the conditions explained by 2021. That means, for the technology team, we need to significantly increase our productivity and efficiency. One aspect to do this is automated fiber planning, which increases planning productivity by the factor 2. How do we do it? We have special cars that take 3D surface pictures from the streets, put the results into a point cloud, and then we apply machine learning And out of that, we get an automated passive line planning. And we will start with that in Q3 2018, and we will show you later tonight how this is working. I also wanted to draw your attention to one of our most promising research projects. Normally, when operators talk about virtualization, we are talking about virtualization of core services. But we all know the bulk of the CapEx and OpEx is in the access. So here, we have successfully started to decouple software and hardware components in the access, which would have two effects. Number one, reduced component prices, and number two, a much higher degree of automation. If it works, and I assume it's going to work, it will disrupt the OEM ecosystem. So you could ask Claudia, why are you telling us? Because we are now in discussions with other telco operators, leading telco operators and tech companies to drive industry in that direction to bring down the network build-out cost. Beyond productivity increasement on the network, I also need to highlight the IT transformation, because it's the big enabler for many of the things we intend to do. And indeed, we have modified our approach along 3 dimensions. Number one, from trying to have a big bang approach and then migrating the customers from the historic system into the new system to a portfolio approach. I will explain that. From having more than 90% in waterfall to coming towards a much more agile approach, and from relying very much on traditional capabilities to a more comprehensive skill transformation. Here are the details of the portfolio approach. In the past, we pursued a big bang approach which didn't work. The historic IT architecture was built according to our processes with applications that were built single purpose, with a very high level of point-to-point connection and a high degree of coupling. And in addition, more than 90% of the delivery was done in release containers with waterfall methodologies. And now we have shifted to a portfolio approach, and that means precisely some very important areas we are building entirely greenfield in Agile and Scrum. Outside the legacy, which is the fiber production system, which is the retail FMC product, and the B2B FMC product. In addition, we have started to decouple the different layers of the legacy infrastructure, and in particular, we decoupled the customer touchpoints from the rest. And last but not least, we have started to modernize. By the way, modernization means instead of building applications for just one single purpose, build microservices and APIs that can be reused. So for everyone who's not interested in IT, what does it bring? It actually brings a significantly reduced delivery time. It mitigates the implementation risk, because it's no longer a big bang. And mid-term, it also reduces costs due to the reusability of the services. More practically speaking, what you can see here on the left side is that the initial investment for the portfolio approach, more precisely, for creating reusable services, is slightly higher than building applications single purpose, logical, right? But over time it gets cheaper, and the typical payback is round about 2 to 3 years. What is the impact of the IT transformation? The average delivery time for applications gets reduced from 18 months on average in 17 to 6 in average, with just a few weeks for the agile part. We, of course, enable the process efficiency, and the IT spend in the planning time frame will be reduced by 200 million euro. So that's the impact of the IT transformation. Maybe I should add one thing. The first thing which I did when I took over the role as the technology and innovation head was to hire a new CIO, Peter Leukert. He actually successfully transformed the IT of 2 major banks. And then we added the chief architect of Airtel to his team, who successfully completed the portfolio approach at Airtel. So in other words, we really have the guys on board who know how to get this done. Coming now to the topic of B2C innovation. You all heard about Entertain TV, about the hybrid router and smart home, so I'm not going to repeat that. We recently launched our so-called Connect app. Without any advertisement, in a short period of time, we got 1.4 million users in a few weeks, and a rating of the app for the iOS version of 4.3 and for the Android version for 3.9. So what does it do? As Tim mentioned before, it automatically detects the best connectivity for you, whether it is the mobile network or a WLAN network, and it also provides for us very relevant data to actually understand customer experience in detail. Yeah? In the long time, actually, that capability will move into the network. We recently launched that. Tim talked about the in-flight connection, so let me just highlight another thing which we are going to launch this year. This is the smart speaker. The smart speaker will allow voice control of telecom services at home, mainly TV, voice telephony, and smart home. And we will integrate services of local partners like banks and retailers. One advantage for the banks is that, for instance, in Europe, you are not allowed to do banking transactions via voice if the server is not in Europe. So that's one of the advantages here. We, by the way, believe that voicification of all our services is a mega trend. Yeah, what the mouse was for the PC in the 80s is actually the voicification of the interface today. Another new product we are going to launch is actually TV for everyone. Everyone means every potential customer who does not have a Deutsche Telekom access product. Yeah, so the over-the-top TV offering in Europe, and for Germany also this year. But we are not only connecting humans, we are also connecting things and machines, making things and machines smarter. We launched narrowband IoT in 8 countries. We have 200 different projects with narrowband IoT applications, and we have smart city projects in 10 cities. One of the important areas is actually predictive maintenance. Over here, we have a sensor. A sensor like that gets installed at the surface of a bridge, and it actually measures corrosion, humidity, and cracks, and sends that via narrowband IoT to a central base station. And again, via data analytics, you can actually predict what might happen to the bridge. By the way, we believe it addresses an urgent problem. I learned that, for instance, in Brandenburg alone, every 10th bridge can no longer be repaired economically. Yeah, so it really solves road construction problem which we are having here. So in addition to that, we just launched our AR maintenance product, which we will also show you tonight. And as I said before, we are interested in, and we explore the campus networks, connected drones, and energy management. Now, I talked a lot about actually what we do, but probably the biggest differentiator is how we do it. And one super important element of what we're doing here is what I would call cultural transformation. One aspect about cultural transformation is global excellency. The technology and innovation team is really, I believe, a great case for global excellency and diversity. We have hired Alex Choi, who was the former Chief Technology Officer of South Korean Telecom, and he now runs technology innovation and research. I mentioned already Peter Leukert, whom I hired to run the IT. Walter Goldenitz, with whom I worked in Hungary. He actually did a good network transformation there with specific attention to productivity and efficiency. He runs Technology Germany. We have JC Jean-Claude Gea from Ericsson, who understands how to do outsourcing very well. And we have Omar Tazi, who is a serial entrepreneur who has worked many years in the States, in France, and in Africa, just to give you a flavor. In addition to that, we are actually driving a comprehensive skill transformation. We mapped all the people in the technology area in what we called future-proven capabilities, in IT, in network technology, and in innovation. And what you see, of course, is that while overall the number of people goes down, there are some capabilities where we need far more people, like coding and architects, and others, like managers, far less. We have actually reduced the organizational hierarchy levels in the innovation functions by 45%. From October onwards, 50% of all our people here in the technology and innovation functions will no longer work in rigid line organizations, but in tribes. And the technology organization in Germany has started to implement DevOps. Now, I need to say, this is really what drives me and what makes me passionate about the job here. So, I mean, we transform the networks to all IP and gigabit. We will lead in 5G. We drive the IP transformation and the product innovations with such a team and such a cultural transformation. And I have to tell you, I think that is really cool. I say that as a business leader, as a tech freak, as a physicist, yeah, as someone who has magenta blood, but is impatient enough, because I worked many, many years in the global technology industry. I say that as a curious human being and as a parent who loves to work on this continent. So I think it's really, truly cool to have the task to transform the networks and IT with such a super cool global team, yeah? And to actually show what we can really deliver here. So after that emotional side comment, let me come back to the midterm ambition. So what do we commit to? Number one, we ramp up the gigabit rollout in Germany and Europe to the numbers Dirk explained, Sini will explain tomorrow. And needless to say that we commit to that. And of course, commit as a technology team to implement the necessary productivity enhancement measures to get it done. Number two, we commit to continue our mobile network experience leadership in Germany and in Europe. And number three, we commit to 5G innovation and execution leadership. On the IP transformation, we commit to complete in the time frame, which means Greece in 19, Germany B2C in 19, and Germany B2B by end of 20. And to the IT transformation, which means the significant reduction of the delivery time from 18 months to 6 months, and the IT spend reduction I talked about. Last but not least, technology is always super cool when you can look and feel. So therefore, my team has built up 3 demonstrator sessions for you. Number 1 will be about the automated fiber planning. Number 2 will be about fixed wireless access and the 5G new radio antenna and massive MIMO. So you can actually really see when you look at the antenna where these efficiencies come from. And number 3 will be the edge cloud team, and actually will show you the advantage of combining an edge cloud with low latency capacities. And for those who love big stuff, yeah, you have these wonderful trenching machines on the way over to the dinner location. And with that, I think my part is done. And Hannes, we go to the Q&A, right? Thank you.